Maura Murray's case captivated internet sleuths from the beginning. One moment she was there, speaking with witnesses after her car accident, and moments later, vanished without a trace. Days became weeks, weeks became months, and months stretched into years. 2 decades of searching, and still the question remains. What happened in those critical 10 minutes? And where is Maura Murray now? Subscribe to Disturbingly True for chilling true crime stories that reveal the dark side of reality. The morning of February 9th began with deliberate actions that only deepened the mystery to come. Maura Murray sent an email to her professors claiming there had been a death in her family, a statement investigators later determined was fabricated. She methodically packed her dorm room, suggesting premeditation rather than spontaneity. Her next stops revealed a person preparing for something. Security cameras captured Maura at an ATM, where she withdrew nearly all her available funds, $280. She then visited a liquor store, purchasing several bottles of alcohol, including vodka and Bailey's cream. These weren't casual errands, but appeared part of a calculated plan. What remained unclear was her destination. Investigators later discovered Maura had searched for directions to Burlington, Vermont on her computer. Yet, she never arrived there. Instead, she headed north along familiar routes toward New Hampshire's White Mountains. "That's an area my family has vacationed our entire life," her brother would later explain. "Maura knows those roads like her backyard because we were in New Hampshire so much, at least 4 times a year." The timeline becomes particularly crucial after 4:30 p.m., the timestamp of Maura's final known phone call, which was simply to check her voicemail. For the next 3 hours, her movements remain a complete mystery, her phone showing no activity whatsoever. At approximately 7:30 p.m., the silence broke. Maura's black Saturn veered off a notoriously winding road in the small town of Haverhill, New Hampshire. The car struck a snowbank, the impact deploying both airbags. A nearby homeowner heard the crash and peered through his window to see a young woman standing beside a damaged vehicle in the gathering darkness. What happened in the minutes following that accident would become the central question of a mystery that has persisted for nearly 2 decades. What no one realized in that moment was that Maura Murray was about to vanish without a trace. The first witness to encounter Maura after the crash approached cautiously. "I just asked her how she was," recalls Butch Atwood, a local school bus driver who lived nearby. "She said she was shaken up. I couldn't see any blood on her face. I told her I was going to call the police." This brief exchange revealed the first red flag. Maura declined Atwood's offer of help, claiming she had already called AAA. This detail troubled Atwood immediately. In 2004, this remote stretch of Route 112 had virtually no cell service, making it impossible for her to have contacted anyone. His suspicion triggered, Atwood returned home and called police himself. Within minutes, the night air was pierced by approaching sirens. The first responding officer arrived approximately 7 to 10 minutes after the initial 911 call, but the scene that greeted him was bewildering. Maura's black Saturn sat damaged against the snowbank, doors locked, with personal items visible inside. However, the driver had completely vanished. As investigators processed the scene, they uncovered a series of peculiar details. A rag had been stuffed into the car's tailpipe, a technique sometimes used to prevent exhaust fumes from entering a vehicle with mechanical issues. Inside the car, officers found a box of wine and bottles of alcohol, with a red liquid splashed across the driver's seat and door. The windshield was cracked, both airbags deployed, suggesting a significant impact despite minimal external damage. These discoveries raised more questions than answers. Had Maura been drinking? Was she injured? Where could she have gone in such a remote area on a frigid February night? The search for Maura Murray began with a critical error: timing. No one from her family was notified of her accident or disappearance on Monday night. It wasn't until Tuesday afternoon that law enforcement finally contacted Maura's older sister, Kathleen. "Nobody in my family was notified that Monday," remembers her brother. "It wasn't until the next day that law enforcement got a hold of my sister, Kathleen. She called my dad, my mom, everyone, me, asking, 'Why is Dad's car up there? Where's Maura? Why isn't she at school?' And no one had any answers." The family's frustration was palpable as they realized a full day had passed with no organized search efforts. Those crucial hours, from Monday night when the car was found until Tuesday, we consider those a missed opportunity, because that 24 hours was when her trail was hot, explains her brother. Law enforcement's approach compounded the family's frustration. Because Maura was 21 years old, and there was no immediate evidence of foul play, police classified her disappearance as a missing person case rather than a potential crime scene. Maura was 21 at the time, and it's not a crime to go missing, her sister Julie explains. And so, they didn't treat it as such. Fred Murray, Maura's father, arrived at dawn on Wednesday, expecting to join an organized search effort. What he found instead was devastating. My dad arrived about dawn on Wednesday. He wanted to join the search, so we went to the police station and said, "Where's the search? Where's my daughter? What's going on?" And my dad essentially was the search because they hadn't done much of anything. As days passed, authorities finally began asking for public assistance. We're also asking the public who may have driven by the scene of the accident that night to please give us a call, pleaded one official during a press conference. Eventually, tracking dogs were brought to the scene. Their findings only deepened the mystery. Scent dogs followed Maura's scent about 100 meters down the road, and then her scent disappeared in the middle of the road, says her sister. This suggested Maura may have entered a vehicle. But whose and why? Multiple theories emerged. Did she run away intentionally? Was she disoriented from the crash and succumbed to the elements? Did she accept a ride from a stranger with malicious intent? Or was there another explanation entirely? I say all the time that we have to keep everything on the table until we find Maura, Julie admits. There are so many theories out there, but none of them have been proven. We don't know what happened to Maura Murray. Fred Murray's determination to find his daughter led him to an unprecedented battle against New Hampshire authorities. Convinced crucial information was being withheld, he embarked on a legal struggle that would last years and reach the state's highest judicial authority. Fred Murray has been frustrated since the day his daughter disappeared with the response from police, explains journalist Mike Baudet. And ultimately, he wanted access to the records, so he went to court to try and obtain all the records in this case. This is a battle that went all the way to the state's highest court in New Hampshire. The family believed they could contribute meaningfully to the investigation if given access. In his mind, if they're not going to use the files, we were, explains Julie. We were doing it, we were actively investigating it. We wanted to see the files. We wanted to see her computer. We wanted to see who they've interviewed. During court proceedings, a fundamental dispute emerged about the nature of Maura's case. Shouldn't the state, at the very least, concede that it's a criminal investigation? Pressed the Murray family attorney. I gather the state hasn't even done that. The state's response was telling. We cannot, with 100% certainty, say that a crime has been committed. Without classified as a criminal investigation, authorities could maintain greater secrecy around their findings. Ultimately, the court sided with investigators, accepting their claim of an ongoing, active investigation that could be compromised by disclosure. They released some records, but they're mostly redacted, Julie laments. They didn't help us much in any way. Undeterred, Fred Murray continued pursuing leads independently. My dad, he led the boots-on-the-ground effort, Julie explains. He would go up there every weekend, a lot of times by himself. These persistent searches led to a potentially breakthrough development in 2019 when local rumors pointed to a specific location. One of the local rumors was Maura was buried in a basement, Julie reveals. This tip seemed particularly credible when cadaver dogs were brought to the location. The dog lays down, Fred Murray observed during the search, indicating a possible discovery. When two separate dogs showed interest in the same area of the basement, hope soared that Maura might finally be found. Media pressure finally led authorities to investigate the site properly. There's always a level of uncertainty with something like this, Fred told reporters before the search. I am optimistic that we may have finally found her. The family's hopes reached fever pitch when authorities announced a press conference following the search. I'm driving as fast as I can up to New Hampshire, heart beating, and they said, we're going to have a press conference at 2 p.m., Julie remembers. Nearly 2 decades have passed, yet Fred Murray's eyes still hold the same pain as when he first stood beside his daughter's abandoned car. Through bitter winters and legal battles, the family perseveres, despite losing Kathleen and their mother, without closure. The mystery of Maura remains, while her sister Julie speaks the devastating truth. I don't have the choice to walk away. I deal with it every day. After all these years, Maura is still missing.